Well, happy Thursday, everybody. It's a cat galore at the moment, and so there's little Thamba slowly creeping along. Looks like he's maybe spotted something, and he's moving closer towards the road, which is great. I don't know if we're going to be able to keep him for that long, because it goes into a bit of a dip here, and then from there it's going to be quite tough, but I'm hoping he's coming up towards Twin Dams. We're just on the eastern side of the Mulawati, and he's looked like he's been walking up and down, so we found his tracks, and we followed them along and found him sitting on the southern side of the road. So he's slowly creeping northern direction, which is very good. But look at him, isn't he the most beautiful cat? Now my day is completely complete. I've had everything that I could have asked for today. I've had elephants, I've had lions, and now one of my favorite leopards in the whole world, Thamba. So it is a good day today, that is for sure. And I'm super glad that we found him. Hello, boy. And look at those beautiful eyes and that little pink nose. Very typical of this individual. He's such a good looking leopard. Now, the problem is that with him being on these kind of areas is that there's quite busy, which is not great for a young leopard. I'm sure he doesn't really like all the attention of the cars. So hopefully he'll cross over onto our side and we'll be able to then see him a little bit better and in a quieter space. But I know a lot of you are very happy to see him and are all saying hello. So I'm sure if he could speak, he would say hello back. It's great that he's at least come and shown himself. Now there's a vehicle that is here, so Senzo, I'm going to ask you if you can just quickly keep an eye on him while I move out the way, because it's a private car that wants to get past, so hopefully he won't move. At least Senzo knows where he is. I can't see him very well with the naked eye, but I'm just going to pull off for this car so that they are able to get past me. Let them go. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn around Senzo. It's going to make life a little bit easier because he's heading in that direction. So, here we go. Okay, Senzo, you're going to have to try and spot him again, which is going to be interesting, to say the least. As you can see, a little bit of a car pile up at this stage, which is what I expected for this part of the world. There he is. Senzo, can you see him still? Okay, there we go. So at least he hasn't moved. If he had moved, it would have been quite tough for us, but he's stayed in exactly the same spot. And actually, I think we might have a better angle on him now. Ariel, who's a new viewer from our Nat Geo shows. Hello, Ariel, and welcome to our Safari Live experience from South Africa. And you are joining us on a perfect day because we've got all of our cats out and about, and you say leopards are your favorite. Well, Ariel, I think you'll find that most of the Safari Live crew, I have a soft spot for the leopards, and I know they are my absolute favorite animal, and I could spend all of my time with them. So any day with a leopard is a good day. I agree with you, and I'm also very excited to be seeing him. So it's definitely improved my mood somewhat, and I think we've had an absolutely incredible afternoon. If you think the amount of species we've seen this afternoon just goes to show you that sometimes luck can be on your side, and there are so many things to actually see out here that we get so focused on one or two animals that in the end we can still see a lot. Now, typical of a leopard, he's gone into the shadows and into the thicker, denser areas, and a young leopard will do this because he's a little nervous of the cars that are here. Now some of the cars are going to move off and it will be a lot more quiet, and I would hope then that he's going to start to come out, and if he comes out onto the top bank here, we're going to be in the perfect place to see him. But you can see that typical tail that gives a leopard away often, that white tip that just curls up, and that's one of their downfalls for us as a guide. It's one of the first things you can spot when a leopard is walking around is that little white tail. So he's very camouflaged, as you can see there, besides the tail sticking out. So I don't know if this is Jamie from Kenya or if this is Jamie, but Jamie wants to know if I tracked Thamba or if I stumbled upon him. Well, Jamie, it was a bit of both. Because what happened was we found tracks in the Mulawati, and the tracks went towards Twin Dams and came back again. So I was following the tracks along, and I walked up and there were two vehicles, and they looked at me and they were like, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm tracking a leopard." And they said, "Well, the leopard is sitting right next to us." And so I then quickly went and got my car, and now was able to find Thamba sitting here with these two cars. So I didn't know that he was here. We were actually just following his tracks. So it's a bit of both, though. We can't claim it as a full-on tracking experience because others had already found him, and he was south of the boundary. So I would have had to stop on the road here and would have been difficult to follow the tracks any further, so the fact that they spotted him has helped. Now, he has gone into a little thicket, but he is moving up towards us, and so I would assume that we're going to lose visual of him for a little bit, and then hopefully he's going to come back up and head back towards Twin Dams. The amount of tracks that are here for him is incredible. They're just going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and so I'm sure he's going to maybe head towards Twin Dam for a drink. If not towards Twin Dam, there are some impalas just down the road here that he might be listening to, and that's maybe where he's heading. Is he coming our way, Senzo? Can you see him? So Senzo says he can see him and he's coming slowly, which is fantastic news. So hopefully he's going to move up and out. And so while we sit and wait for him, and we're going to be patient and hope that he does come out, let's go back to Tara and the beautiful Inkuhuma bride. As far as we know, we think that Tingana is the father of Hosana and this leopard that is now popped up onto the tree to show us his massive paws that he has. So little Thamba has now come out beautifully. He's sitting just next to the road on a stump and is watching around, and look at the size of those feet. Are they not absolutely huge? He really does have big feet for his age. It's amazing to see the size of his tracks. Look at that. They are monstrous. I'm pretty sure he's going to be a huge individual later in life. It's going to be great to see when he gets older. I hope that he ends up in a place that we can see him, because it'll be great if he does. He's an absolutely massive, I reckon, when he gets older, if he does grow into those feet. And so obliging of him to come and sit where he is sitting now. It's the perfect place for a leopard to be sitting nicely out in the open. So a little bit of patience was rewarded. Mike, it's difficult to see a nice spot pattern, but as they get older, so that spot pattern evens out and it starts to almost set for their adulthood, and so much easier when they get a little bit older. Also, as they get older, they'll get nicks out of their ears, scars on their faces, and prominent markings that we'll be able to use to identify them. So, I mean, a male cub of a year old this is pretty much how he's going to look for the rest of his life in terms of his spot pattern. But you know, when he was a 3, 4, 5 week old cub, it would have been very difficult to get any sort of IDing features other than maybe the spots just above his whisker line that you could have used. But it's much easier when they do get older. They also take on a certain shape and a certain look about them, and it's interesting because I know a lot of you use spot patterns when you ID leopards, but when we here see leopards, it's almost instantly that you see them, you can recognize certain individuals. So for me, Thamba, Hosana, Shongile, there's just a look about them. I don't actually have to count their spots generally to know who they are. So it's one of those things. It's almost like, I mean, if you've ever had pets and you've had dogs and cats, you know which ones are yours just by looking at them, and it's a similar kind of thing with the leopards. But isn't that beautiful? I wonder if he's seen something that he's just watching. Look, he's just putting his head over now. What have you seen, boy? And there are, like I said, were some impalas not too far away, so I wonder if he's not just watching those and he's using the stump perfectly to be able to hide. It's very cool. You clever boy. I can tell you though, we know that he hasn't been with Thandi for the last 2 days, possibly 3, but he still looks fantastic. He looks as though he's still managing to find food, and so whatever he is eating, he's doing perfectly well. He's not in any way losing condition. He looks healthy. His stomach looks quite round, so he's maybe, if he's feeding off birds and things like that, he's certainly successful in doing it. The other thing he could be targeting is terrapins and monitor lizards, as we know Shongile and Hosana did when they first were left on their own for long periods, and so maybe he started to learn how to do that, because there's no ways that Thandi has been back to him in the last 2 days. The fact that she's been mating with Tingana, we know that they were on the western side and into Arathusa yesterday, and then today they ended up, is there a little francolin there? Yes, there are francolins that are walking below his feet. Now, we saw him the other day growl at francolins when they walked past him. I wonder if he's going to do the same with these francolins. Francolins, you are playing with your life. I was saying that they will readily eat birds. Now, one leopard that did go after birds quite a lot was Shivambalana. So, for those of you that remember Shivambalana, and where he got his name was actually from catching a emerald spotted wood dove, because that's what Shivambalana means. And he was sitting on a mound and a wood dove came flying past and he just grabbed it and jumped up and grabbed it. And so young leopards will feed on birds a lot. I think Thumba's a little bit confused by the brazen nature of francolins because, like I said the other day, he just started growling at them when he was trying to sort of sit behind the log and watch them, and now he looks as though he's thoroughly perplexed at the fact that these francolins are just playing around at his feet and are not really too scared of him and running away. So there we go, there's the little crested francolin underneath. You are a brave francolin, I can tell you right now. You're lucky that that's not Tundi, because you would be dead by now. So Tundi is a lot more lethal when it comes to hunting than what Thamba is at this stage of the game. What are you going to do? Hopefully he doesn't go pouncing after them, because we might then lose visual of him. Where he is now is absolutely perfect for us to be able to see him in great detail and be able to watch him nicely. And if he goes bounding after those francolins, he might go back into that horrible thicket that he was in just now. So I'm hoping that the francolins move away and we don't have to worry. Pygmy puff army, you say, so majestic? Well, it doesn't get much better than that, does it? A leopard sprawled out on a fallen over tree is about as good as anyone could wish for. Now if he just turns his head and rests his head on his paw and stares at us, we will have the perfect leopard sighting. So that's what I'm going to hope for. I'm sure he will eventually. He'll lose interest in those francolins if the francolins move off, and then he's going to look around, and being a young leopard, he often likes to look at people and varying other things, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see him turn his head towards us. So it's going to be, hopefully, a nice long sighting with our little Thamba. Like I said, my day is absolutely made. I've had the most wonderful bush day, I think. Doesn't get much better than what I've had today. Oh, there he goes. You see, he's now looking at those francolins. I think the francolins are right below him now. I wonder if he's going to jump on them and pounce on them. He looks like he's getting ready. Look, he's positioning himself. Are you going to go? I wonder if he's going to pounce on them. Looks like he's getting ready. You can see his little bum is wiggling. I can't see his tail now. Tail of a leopard is normally their most expressive part, and just before they bounce, you see the tail twitching, which there it is. You can see the tail just coming up between the grass there. I love a leopard's tail. The way it twitches is the best thing in the world. Don't go back down though. The francolins needed to walk the other way. I think it would have been much better had they. Is he going to go after them? Oh, Beard, you say volunteer cat toys. Well, yes, I don't know if it's volunteer or Darwin Awards today, but it is most certainly not the brightest francolins out here, because they're moving straight towards our little leopard, and he's going to pounce on one of them if they're not careful. You can see he's moving away slightly now, but his little belly, I was looking through the binoculars, is quite full, so whatever he's been doing, he's found food somewhere. Now he's just disappearing behind the mound, unfortunately. I'm going to try. Senzo, do you want me to go back a bit? I think I'm going to try and just go back, because he's walking back a little bit. I'm just seeing now. I just don't want to move too much, because I don't want the francolins to get a fright and run away, and for him to lose an opportunity if he is hunting them. I don't think he's very sure what he wants to do. What are you doing, Thamba? You can just see the tail flickering through the grass there. So Senzo's battling a bit with all the grass that's around. There we go, there's the little tail. Take care, you want to know what the strongest muscle is in a leopard. Now, that's an interesting question. I would imagine, for me, it must be either in the forearms or around the shoulder blades. Those muscles there should be the most powerful. I don't think there would be many others, but in relation to their power of their jaws would be quite interesting. But most definitely, if you look at a structure of a leopard, most of its weight is going to be over its front shoulders, and that's where the biggest bulging muscles are. So I would imagine those muscles that attach to the shoulder blades and the forearms are all going to be their most powerful that they've got. Now let's see, he's still not sure about these francolins. The francolins are still pottering about there. They haven't made any noise yet, which means they haven't actually seen this leopard, but he's just sitting kind of staring into the francolins and watching what they're doing. I think he's a bit completely taken aback by their brazen attitude towards him. It's interesting because I've seen with Tiani, when she was young at his age, there's not a chance that Franklin would have got anywhere near her. She would have been like a shot onto those Franklins. So it's interesting to see how there's a difference. I don't think he would be as accommodating of Franklins walking right towards him. I think Thamba's still learning this whole process, and he's been fortunate in that he's had a mom that's fed him so well, and I think it's now he's going to start learning some very hard lessons as to what he actually can feed off. It's not going to be beautiful big impalas and kudus and waterbuck that mom has been feeding him over the last year. He's going to have to start looking at lots smaller animals in order to sustain himself. Holly, you're asking if you're wondering if Thamba will be bigger than Hosanna. Holly, difficult to say. I mean, it's obviously there's genetics involved and there's all kinds of things, and maybe this period of Hosanna not being with mom from such an early age might mean that he's slightly smaller, well, development-wise through these years than what Thamba is. You must remember Thamba is 6 months younger than what Hosanna is, and they're pretty much the same size already, so it'll be interesting to see. And you also find that some leopards go through different growth spurts. Some are going to get bigger, some are going to get smaller, and it's going to be an interesting process as to see this sort of development and to see how they go and whether or not he does end up being larger than Hosanna. It will be an interesting competition between the two of them because they're both quite big boys already for their age, and just judging by Thamba's feet, I think he might end up being a little bit larger than what Hosanna would be. I think I'm going to just go back a little bit because from where we are there, that's not too bad. Thanks, Senzo. That's okay. You've got a nice gap now. I thought for a second there you wouldn't be able to see his head. Sorry, my fault. But Senzo's having to deal with lots of vegetation in front of this little leopard. Look, he's watching. He's not sure as to what to make of these francolins. Sammy, you're wondering what the pattern is for on a leopard is for. Now, I'm going to ask Senzo to zoom out a little bit and you'll see exactly what the pattern is for. So if we come out more, Senzo, more. Right, now, can you see the leopard easily in that? No. So the pattern is there to break up the outline of this leopard. It makes it very difficult to see, particularly in dappled light that you see in shady areas like this. So the black spots help just to break up the outline. That coloration that they've got blends in with the color of the grass as well as the shadowy areas, and they become masters of camouflage. So that's why they spotted, is all to do with camouflage and nothing else. But if you were driving past quickly, to see that would be quite difficult. But look at that, isn't he beautiful? Yes, we're talking about you. You are probably one of the most good-looking leopards in the Sabi Sand, I would say. And it's just been such a treat to spend so much time with him over the last few months. You know, we've been spoilt with the sightings we've had of Thamba and Thandi, and you know, the fact that when he was born we saw very little of him. The first sort of 7 months or 8 months of him being alive, we didn't get many sightings at all, and now it seems as though he's one of our go-to leopards, and we've been so blessed to have been able to watch him as he's growing and as he's starting to get into adolescence and moving into his teenage years, so to speak. And to watch him as he develops has really been a treat. So I count ourselves very lucky to not only have him, but Hosanna and Shongila, and to watch these youngsters make their way in life is a very, very special thing. There's very few people in this world that will be able to do that, and it's the best part about our job is that we're able to do this with all of you and to have the biggest safari vehicle in the world with all of you watching, and to go through these trials and tribulations of these young cats the way that we do is such a special thing. So I'm certainly very appreciative of the time we spend with them, and I'm sure a lot of you are too. And count ourselves very lucky that we can do this kind of thing, and that we're in a reserve in probably one of the best leopard viewing destinations in the world. He's just watching. I think the francolins have kind of passed him by. Tony, you say, come on, kitty, pounce. I don't think he's going to, Tony. Unfortunately, I think the Franklins have moved off a little bit, and he's just still watching them as they go. He's obviously not hungry enough yet to prompt him to go after things. I think he's going to move off shortly. He looks as though he's repositioning himself. Maybe not. Yep, there he goes. Now, hopefully, we need him to turn to the right and then come over the road and come northwards, because if he does that, we're going to be in the winning seat. Now, I'm just going to start and try and head Chris, how are you? Leroy. Now, hopefully he's going to come towards us. I just want to go a little bit further forward here, because I think he's going to pop out for us just here. We're going to just let all these cars, there he is there, but he's going to turn because there's too many vehicles, I think. Unfortunately for us, there's a number of private cars on this main road that are going to lodges and varying other things, and I think that's going to turn him in the southerly direction. So I think while we see where he ends up going, let's go across to Tara and the ever sleepy Nkuhumu bride.